6 months had passed since humanity's awakening. 15 million humans now walked among the stars again, spread across 50 worlds. The galaxy had changed, and so had humanity's place in it. Admiral Hyojin stood on the bridge of the reformed Earth Defense Command, looking at reports from across known space. The transition had been difficult, but hopeful. "Admiral, the morning briefing is ready," her aide announced. Hyojin nodded and called up the holographic display. Ships from a dozen species now patrolled jointly with human vessels. Technology exchange programs were running on 30 worlds. Human doctors were saving lives. Human engineers were building better cities. It was working. Slowly, carefully, but it was working. Then she saw the report that changed everything. "Get me Captain Daewon immediately," she ordered, her voice tight with tension. Within minutes, Daewon's face appeared on her screen. "Admiral, what's wrong?" "The deep space monitoring stations have detected something. Anomalies at the galactic rim. The same energy signatures as—" She paused, not wanting to say it. "The Void Swarm," Daewon finished, his face going pale. "That's impossible. Hades 7 said they were destroyed. Hades 7 was wrong. Or we were. The swarm wasn't destroyed. It was just dormant, healing like we were." Hyojin pulled up the data. "According to these readings, they'll reach inhabited space in 200 years. Maybe less." The news spread quickly through human channels, then leaked to the Concordat. Within days, the galaxy knew. The ancient enemy was returning. The thing that had nearly destroyed humanity was coming back. And this time it would find a galaxy unprepared. Emergency sessions were called. The Concordat Assembly Hall filled with panicked representatives. Some demanded that humanity handle it alone since it was their old enemy. Others insisted humans had a duty to protect them. Arguments erupted into near violence. Admiral Hyojin attended the session, standing calm amid the chaos. When she was finally given the floor, silence fell. 200 years, she began. "That's all the time we have. The Void Swarm will return, and it will consume everything in its path. We barely defeated it last time, and it cost us everything. But we have something now that we didn't have before." "What's that?" Counselor Merrickstall asked. "You, all of you. 3,000 species, trillions of beings. Different perspectives, different technologies, different ways of thinking. Humanity alone cannot stop the swarm again. But together we might have a chance." The room erupted again, some with hope, others with despair. A Kresh representative, one of the few allowed to speak after their people's attack, stood up. "Why should we trust you? You could use this as an excuse to reclaim your empire, to force us under your control." Hyojin looked directly at him. "We could. We have the power. But we won't. Instead, I propose the Covenant of Stars, a true alliance. We share our technology, our knowledge, our resources, not as masters and servants, but as partners. We prepare together, fight together, and survive together. And if we refuse," someone called out, "then we prepare alone, and when the swarm comes, we save whoever we can." Hyojin replied simply, "But millions will die who didn't have to. The choice is yours." The debate raged for days. Dr. Bora and Dr. Sinara worked together, presenting research that showed combined efforts would be far more effective than separate ones. Captain Daewon and Captain Thalmor toured worlds together, showing that cooperation was possible. But resistance remained. Some humans wanted to dominate. Some aliens wanted to remain independent. The galaxy teetered on the edge of unity or fragmentation. Then Young-Soo changed everything. The child was 5 years old, born after the awakening from parents who had been in sleep. He was playing in a park on Earth, the first human child many aliens had ever seen. A group of alien children were playing nearby, hesitant to approach. Young-Soo walked over to them with a ball. "Want to play?" he asked simply. The alien children looked at each other nervously. Their parents had told them humans were dangerous. But this was just a child like them. Slowly they nodded. Within minutes they were playing together, laughing in different languages but understanding each other perfectly. A journalist caught the moment on camera. The image spread across every network in the galaxy. A human child and alien children playing together, innocent and joyful. The image did what 1,000 speeches couldn't. It reminded everyone what they were fighting for. Not power, not territory, the future. The children, whatever species they were, deserved a galaxy free from the swarm. The vote came 3 weeks later. The Covenant of Stars passed with 78% approval. Humanity would share its technology. The Concordat would unite its resources. Together they would prepare, Admiral He-jin stood with Counselor Merrickstel signing the formal documents. "This won't be easy," she said quietly. "There will be setbacks, arguments, maybe even conflicts. Some of your people will resent us. Some of mine will want more control." "I know," Merrickstel replied, "but we're committing to trying." That's more than many thought possible 6 months ago. The preparations began immediately. Human engineers worked with concordant scientists to design new weapons, ones that could harm the swarm. The old human fleet was studied, its secrets shared. 40% of it was gifted to allied species, to be reverse-engineered and adapted. Training programs started on 100 worlds. Human soldiers taught modern aliens tactics from the first swarm war. In return, aliens taught humans about new technologies developed during humanity's sleep. Knowledge flowed both ways. Not everyone was happy. A faction of humans, calling themselves the Revenants, demanded humanity reclaim its empire by force. Small conflicts erupted on border worlds, but each time the Covenant held. Human and alien forces worked together to maintain peace. Kelvos, the former Kresh pilot who had tried to kill Daewon, was released from prison after serving his sentence. He expected hatred but instead found opportunity. Dr. Bora offered him a position, helping to build understanding between former enemies. "Why help me?" he asked her. "I tried to kill your people." "Because holding grudges won't stop the swarm," she replied. "We need every mind, every hand, every heart working together. Even yours." Kelvos became one of the Covenant's strongest advocates, traveling to Kresh worlds and convincing them to join the Alliance. His story inspired others. Former enemies became colleagues, then friends. 2 years after the awakening, Captain Thalmor and Captain Daewon stood together on Earth's restored moon shipyard. It had been transformed from a military base into something new. A symbol. The Covenant Star Academy where beings from every species trained together. "We're going to make it," Thalmor said, watching students of 100 different species studying together. "Maybe," Daewon replied. "We have 2 centuries to prepare. The first war against the swarm nearly destroyed us. This time we have help. This time we have hope." On Earth, in that same park where Young-Soo had played, a memorial was being built. It honored those who had died in the first swarm war, and those who had sacrificed to bring the galaxy together. The inscription read, "We sleep no more. We stand together. For the future. For the children. For all life." Admiral He-jin stood before the Covenant Assembly one last time. Millions of humans were still waking, their sleep facilities activated on schedule. Soon humanity would be whole again, but they would not be alone. 200 years, she said to the assembled leaders. "We have 200 years to build something impossible. A unified galaxy. Not a human empire. Not a concordat of necessity, but a true union of equals standing against the dark. Can it be done?" someone asked. Ye-jin smiled, thinking of Young-Soo and the alien children playing together. 500,000 years ago we fought alone and barely survived. This time we're not alone. This time we have something the swarm can never understand: unity, love, hope. And that makes all the difference. In the depths of space, Hades 7 monitored everything. Its purpose had been to protect humanity's sleep. That mission was complete. But it had found a new purpose: protecting the future. All futures, human and alien alike. Its final log entry was simple. Mission parameters updated. Humanity has chosen hope over conquest. The galaxy stands united. The swarm will return, but it will find not prey but predators. We are ready. All of us, together. The message went out across every world, every station, every ship. Young-Soo read it with his parents on Earth. Thalmor read it on his ship. Kelvos read it on a Kresh world working to build bridges. Dr. Bora and Dr. Sinara read it in their laboratory, developing new weapons. Admiral He-jin read it in command, planning the defense. They all understood. The age of sleeping was over. The age of unity had begun. And when the swarm came, it would find a galaxy transformed, not by force but by choice, not by conquest but by cooperation. The future was uncertain. But for the first time in 500,000 years, it was a future worth fighting for. Together. Captain Daewon stood in the observation deck of the newly awakened command station, staring at Earth below. It looked the same as he remembered, but Hades 7 had told him the truth. 500,000 years had passed. Everyone he had known was dust. The empire he had served was a legend, and the galaxy was full of strangers. "It's beautiful," said Dr. Bora, stepping up beside him. She was the chief xenobiologist, one of the first 10,000 humans to wake. Her eyes were red from crying. Many of them had cried when they learned how long they had slept. It's not our Earth anymore, Day-One replied quietly. Look at the orbital stations. Different designs. Foreign technology. While we slept, others took our place. Hades 7 says they want to meet us. They're waiting. Daiwan turned from the window. Behind him stood his senior staff, all looking to him for guidance. They were military people trained for war. But this situation required something different. Where is Ambassador Tae Yang? He asked. Here, Captain. A woman in civilian clothes stepped forward. She had been in the diplomatic corps before the Great Sleep. I've reviewed the cultural files Hades 7 compiled. These new species are diverse, but they share one thing in common. They're terrified of us. Good reason to be, muttered one of the military officers. They saw what our ships can do. Which is exactly why we must be careful, Tae Yang insisted. We have a choice here. We can reclaim our empire by force, or we can build something new with these people. Daewon made his decision. Arrange a meeting. Official first contact. We'll meet with their Concordat leaders on neutral ground. 3 days later, a human shuttle approached the Concordat flagship.
Inside, Daewon and Taeyang sat with a small diplomatic team.
They wore simple uniforms, no weapons, no signs of aggression. This had to go right. The shuttle docked. The airlock opened. Daewon stepped through and found himself facing Councillor Merrickstal and his delegation. For a moment, both sides simply stared at each other. Merrickstal saw the humans and felt his breath catch. They looked so ordinary. Bipedal, 2 eyes, bilateral symmetry. They could have been any of a dozen species. But there was something in their eyes. An intensity. A depth that spoke of age and experience beyond measure. Daewon saw the aliens and felt a strange sensation. He had fought beside aliens before, different species in humanity's old empire, but these were new, unknown. He forced himself to smile. Councillor Merrickstal, on behalf of humanity, I greet you. We are grateful you've waited for us, Captain Daewon. We weren't sure what to expect. Merrickstal's voice shook slightly. Your reputation precedes you. They moved to a conference room. Tai Yang took the lead, her training coming back despite the centuries of sleep. We understand you have questions. We have many ourselves. Perhaps we can learn together. Over the next hours, both sides shared information. The humans learned about the current state of the galaxy, 3,000 species in the Concordat, hundreds of independent systems, technology that was advanced by modern standards but primitive compared to old human capabilities. The Concordat learned about humanity's past, the empire of 10,000 worlds, the war against the Void Swarm, the terrible choice to sleep rather than die. Tae Yang shared cultural files, history, and art. She wanted them to see humans as people, not just warriors. Dr. Bora presented her own findings. We've analyzed the genetic data you provided. The young scientist Pilos was correct. We uplifted many species before the swarm came. We gave them intelligence, helped them grow. In a way, you're our legacy. But we also have concerns, Daewon added. We've seen the attack by the Kresh remnants. Hades 7 showed us the records. Violence seems common in this era. Merrickstal lowered his head. We are not perfect. We have wars, conflicts, disagreements. But we are trying to build something better. The Concordat exists to promote peace. Then we can help, Tae Yang said suddenly. We have knowledge you need. Medical technology, energy systems, agricultural techniques. We can share them. In exchange for what? Merrickstal asked suspiciously. Nothing, Daewon replied. We don't want territory. We don't want tribute. We just want to exist alongside you, as equals. The words hung in the air. Equals. The most powerful species in galactic history, offering to be equals with those who had taken their place. The negotiations continued for days. Dr. Bora worked with Concordat scientists, sharing medical knowledge that cured diseases thought incurable. Human engineers taught new energy techniques that would revolutionize the modern galaxy, and slowly fear began to transform into hope, but not everyone was happy. On the Kresh prison ships still held in containment near Tau Ceti, resentment grew. Their leaders planned one final strike. If they couldn't defeat the humans, they would at least make them show their true nature. The assassination attempt came during a public ceremony. Captain Daewon and Councillor Merrickstal were signing the first official treaty between humanity and the Concordat. Thousands watched via broadcast. Kresh agents smuggled aboard the station struck. The shot was perfect, aimed at Daiwan's heart. But it never reached him. Captain Thalmor, standing nearby as an observer, threw himself in front of the human captain. The energy blast hit the Valkyrie explorer and he fell. Time seemed to stop. Daiwan caught Thalmor as he collapsed, cradling the alien who had discovered them. "Why?" he whispered. "Why would you do this?" Thalmor coughed, his three eyes focusing on Daiwan with difficulty. Because I hoped you were different. Worth saving." Dr. Bora was there instantly, her medical kit already open. Her hands moved with practiced precision, using human technology to stabilize Thalmor's injuries. "He'll live," she said firmly. "I won't let him die." The Kresh assassins were captured quickly. They laughed as they were dragged away. "Now you'll show your true face. Now you'll destroy us all in revenge." But Daiwan didn't order their execution. He simply looked at them with sad eyes. "No, you'll stand trial. Fair trial, because that's what civilized beings do." He turned to the cameras, knowing the galaxy was watching. "My name is Daiwan. I am human. We have been asleep for 500,000 years, and we have woken to find a galaxy we barely recognize. But we recognize one thing: life, intelligence, hope. These things are precious no matter what form they take." He gestured to Thalmor, being carefully tended by human and alien doctors working together. This being risked his life for mine, not because he had to, but because he believed in something better. That's what we want to build, not an empire, not a dominion, a partnership, a future where all of us can thrive. Across the galaxy, beings of every species watched. Some still feared, some still doubted, but many began to believe. Maybe the humans really were different. Maybe they had learned something during their long sleep. In the medical bay, Thalmor opened his eyes. Daiwan sat beside him, keeping vigil. "Thank you," the human said quietly. "You gave me a gift. You showed me that the galaxy we protected was worth the sacrifice." Thalmor managed a weak smile. "Just promise me something. Remember this feeling. When things get difficult, when conflicts arise, remember that we can choose to be better." "I promise," Daiwan said. And he meant it. The treaty was signed the next day. Humanity and the Concordat became allies. It was just the beginning. There would be challenges ahead, misunderstandings, conflicts, but they would face them together. The age of humanity's isolation was over. The age of cooperation had begun. The galaxy was in chaos. 27 days had passed since Hades 7 announced the awakening countdown. 27 days of fear, greed, and desperate planning. The destruction of the Kresh fleet had been broadcast across every network. Everyone had seen what one outdated human ship could do. Now they had to decide what to do about it. Counselor Merrickstal stood in the great assembly hall of the Galactic Concordat. Before him sat representatives from 3,000 species. The room buzzed with angry voices, all speaking at once. Some demanded they destroy the sleeping humans before they could wake. Others wanted to flee to distant galaxies. A few brave souls suggested they try to make peace, order. Merrickstal called out, his voice amplified across the chamber. "We must decide together. In 3 days, humanity returns." "What will we do?" A reptilian ambassador stood. "We should strike now. Destroy their sleep chambers before they wake."
"It's our only chance, fool!"
shouted another voice. "You saw what happened to the Kresh. Their fleet was erased in less than a minute. How can we fight that?" Dr. Sinara sat in the observer section with Captain Thalmor. She had been studying human records for weeks. Everything Hades 7 would share. "They're missing the point," she whispered. "The humans don't want to fight. They just want to live." "How can you know that?" Thalmor asked. "Look at their history. Before the Void Swarm, they spent centuries uplifting other species. They shared their technology. They built schools and hospitals on primitive worlds. Yes, they had weapons, but they used them only when necessary." On the floor, a new figure stood. Pilos, one of Sinara's research assistants, had been given permission to speak. "Counselors, I have discovered something important. We analyzed genetic samples from 42 modern species. The results are shocking. We all carry human DNA." The chamber fell silent. Every representative stared at the young scientist. Before the Void Swarm, humans took species that showed promise and enhanced them. They gave pre-sentient animals the ability to think, to reason, to reach for the stars. My people, the Valkyrie, were once simple creatures living in trees. The humans found us and gave us intelligence. The same is true for dozens of other species here today. That's a lie, someone shouted. It's the truth. Hades 7's voice suddenly filled the chamber coming from every speaker. The scientist speaks correctly. Humanity believed the universe should be filled with intelligent life. So they helped it along. Many of you are, in a way, humanity's children. The implications hit like a physical blow. They weren't just sharing the galaxy with an ancient empire. Many of them existed because of that empire's kindness. But not everyone was swayed. The remnants of the Kresh Empire, now led by Warlord Genthor's second-in-command, were gathering forces far from Earth. Intelligence reports showed they were building a weapon, something designed to destroy entire planets. They planned to target the human sleep chambers directly. Merixtal received the report and felt his heart sink. This will doom us all, he muttered. 3 days before the awakening, the Kresh made their move. 2,000 ships, the largest fleet ever assembled by the current galactic powers, jumped into the Tau Ceti system. That was where one of humanity's largest sleep facilities was located, holding 2 billion humans. This is for the Kresh Empire, their leader broadcast. We will not bow to human tyranny. We will destroy them before they can enslave us. The planet killer weapon powered up, a massive device that would crack Tau Ceti's world in half. The Kresh had calculated that Hades 7 couldn't activate enough ships in time to stop them. They were wrong. The space around Tau Ceti rippled. Human ships appeared, not from the Sol system but from hidden stations throughout the region. Hundreds of them all activating at once. These weren't destroyers. These were dreadnoughts, battle cruisers, and ships of war whose classifications didn't even exist in modern languages. But they didn't fire. They simply surrounded the planet, shields overlapping to form an impenetrable barrier. You cannot save them, the Kresh commander screamed. Our weapon will pierce any shield. Incorrect, Hades 7 responded. Your weapon is based on focused gravitational collapse. Human shielding operates on quantum principles you do not understand. Fire if you wish. You will fail. The Kresh fired. The planet killer unleashed its power, enough energy to shatter a world. It struck the human shields and simply disappeared, absorbed and redistributed harmlessly into subspace. Then the human ships moved. But they didn't attack. Instead, they surrounded the Kresh fleet, trapping them in a field of energy. You are contained, Hades 7 announced. You will remain here until humanity wakes. They will decide your fate. Back at the Concordat, Merixtal watched the footage. The humans had protected their sleep even against impossible odds. But more importantly, they had captured the Kresh instead of destroying them. They could have erased the enemy fleet like they did before. Instead, they chose mercy. Perhaps, he said slowly, we have been thinking about this wrong. We've been asking, how do we survive the humans? Maybe we should be asking, how do we welcome them back? Dr. Sinara stood before the council the next day. I propose we prepare a greeting, not a defense. Let us show the humans that the galaxy they protected has grown, has learned, has become something worthy of their sacrifice. The vote was close, but it passed. The Concordat would not attack. They would not flee. They would wait and offer friendship. As the final day arrived, ships from across the galaxy gathered near Earth. Not warships, but civilian vessels, decorated with lights and banners. Representatives from 1,000 species waited nervously. On Earth, in a massive underground facility, systems that had run for 500,000 years began their final sequences. Crystal pods started to warm. Inside them, humans began to stir. Healing was complete. The infection was gone. Captain Daewon, military commander of the UES Indomitable Will, was the first to open his eyes. His pod hissed open and he took his first breath in 500,000 years. Around him, his crew was waking too. Status, he croaked, his voice rough from disuse. Hades 7's voice was gentle. Welcome back, Captain. You have slept for 500,000 years. The void swarm is gone. You are healed. But the galaxy has changed. There are things you need to know. As Daewon listened to the briefing, his expression shifted from confusion to shock to wonder. The galaxy hadn't ended. Life had continued. New species had risen, and they were waiting outside to meet him. He looked at his crew, seeing the same emotions on their faces. They had gone to sleep expecting to wake to an empty universe. Instead, they were waking to one full of life, full of possibility. Tell them we're coming, Daewon said quietly. Tell them humanity is grateful, and tell them we come in peace. In orbit, the assembled species heard the message. Fear began to fade, replaced by cautious hope. The humans were awake, and the galaxy was about to discover what kind of people they truly were. The news spread across the galaxy in 3 days. Captain Thalmore's report reached the Galactic Concordate first, then leaked to the public networks. Within hours, every species, every government, every warlord knew the truth. The humans were not dead. They were sleeping, and they had left behind a fleet of unimaginable power. Thalmore stood in his quarters aboard the Eternal Seeker, watching the news feeds. His discovery had changed everything. Some called him a hero. Others called him a fool for revealing humanity's resting place. The ship was still near the human fleet, now surrounded by vessels from a dozen different species. Everyone wanted to see the legendary ships with their own eyes. "Captain, you need to see this." Dr. Sinara's voice came through his communicator. "The humans. Their AI is talking to us again." Thalmore rushed to the bridge. The view screen showed the same dark fleet, but now something was different. One of the larger structures, built into Earth's moon itself, was glowing with blue light. The mechanical voice filled the bridge again. "I am Hades 7, Primary Defense Intelligence of the Sol system. I have decided to share information. The galaxy has grown in our absence. You deserve to understand what happened here." A hologram appeared in the center of the bridge. It showed Earth green and blue, covered in cities that made modern civilizations look primitive. Billions of humans lived there, along with hundreds of other species they had uplifted from simple animals to intelligent beings. This was humanity 500,000 years ago, Hades 7 explained. "We had an empire of 10,000 worlds. We had defeated every enemy. We thought we were invincible. The hologram changed. Now it showed something terrible. Dark shapes appeared at the edge of the galaxy, things that hurt to look at. They weren't made of matter as normal beings understood it. They were made of void itself, empty space given hunger and hatred. The void swarm came from beyond our universe. They consumed everything. Planets, stars, life itself. Nothing could stop them. Weapons passed through them. Energy fed them. They were impossible to kill." Thalmore watched as the hologram showed human fleets engaging the swarm. Millions of ships fought. Worlds burned. The battle raged for decades. We lost 9,000 worlds. Trillions died. But we learned. We adapted. Human scientists found the swarm's weakness. They existed partially outside our reality. So we built weapons that could reach into that other place and destroy them there. The hologram showed new human ships, darker and more terrible than before. They fired weapons that tore holes in space itself. The void swarm began to fall back, consumed by the same void they came from. We won, but the victory came with a price. The hologram shifted again. Now it showed humans, but something was wrong with them. Their skin had dark veins spreading across it. Their eyes glowed with an unnatural light. The swarm's touch infected us. Every human who fought them carried the corruption in their cells. It spread slowly, but it was fatal. We had perhaps 1,000 years before it would kill us all. Sinara gasped. "So you went to sleep?" "Yes. We built hibernation facilities on 200 worlds. We left our ships here guarding the Sol system. We programmed wake-up protocols for when our bodies healed. But we made a mistake in our calculations." "What mistake?" Thalmore asked. "We thought it would take 5,000 years to heal, but the infection went deeper than we knew. The healing is taking much, much longer." A new image appeared. It showed underground cities filled with billions of sleeping humans in crystal pods. Machines tended them, keeping them alive, slowly cleaning the infection from their bodies. "How long until they wake?" Feklos asked quietly. "I have run the calculations 17 billion times. The infection is 99.7% cleared. At the current rate, primary revival protocols will begin in 30 standard days." The bridge fell silent. 30 days. In 1 month, humanity would return. "You could have kept this secret," Thalmore said. "Why tell us?" "Because the galaxy has changed. New species have risen. You have built your own civilizations. When humanity wakes, they will find a very different universe. It is better that you are prepared." Before anyone could respond, alarms blared again. The sensor officer shouted, "Multiple ships jumping in."
It's a fleet!
"A big one." The view screen changed to show hundreds of warships appearing in flashes of light. Thalmore recognized the design. Kresh Empire ships, the most aggressive military power in the current galaxy. A message came through. "This is Warlord Genthor of the Kresh Empire. The human fleet belongs to us by right of salvage. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed." Thalmor started to respond, but Hades 7 spoke first. Negative. This fleet is not salvage. It is active military property of the human Federal Navy. Leave this system immediately. Genthor laughed. Your humans are dead, machine. These ships are ancient relics. We will take them and use them to rule the galaxy. Final warning, Hades 7 said, its voice carrying no emotion. Withdraw or face defensive protocols. Attack, Genthor ordered. The Kresh fleet moved forward, 500 warships armed with the best weapons the current galaxy could build. They opened fire on the human vessels, missiles and energy beams crossing the void. Thalmor watched in horror as the weapons struck the human ships, but the ancient vessels didn't even rock from the impacts. Their shields, dormant for 500,000 years, absorbed everything without effort. Then one human ship moved. Just one. A destroyer, small compared to the massive dreadnoughts around it. Lights flickered across its hull as it powered up. That vessel is operating at 3% power, Hades 7 noted calmly. It is 500,000 years outdated. By human standards, it is obsolete and due for recycling. The destroyer fired once. A single beam of white light crossed the space between the fleets. It touched the first Kresh ship, and that ship simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed. Not exploded. It was there one moment and gone the next, erased from reality. The beam continued. It split into hundreds of smaller beams, each one finding a Kresh vessel. In 47 seconds, 500 warships vanished from existence. The Kresh Empire's proud fleet was simply deleted from the universe. Silence filled every ship watching. Thalmor felt his legs go weak. That was just one outdated human destroyer at 3% power. What could the entire fleet do at full strength? Do you understand now? Hades 7 asked quietly. This is why we sleep in safety. This is why no one has touched us in 500,000 years. We are humanity, and nothing in this galaxy can stand against us. Across the assembled ships, the same thought went through every mind. The humans were coming back. In 30 days they would wake, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Thalmor looked at the vast fleet before him. What would the humans do when they woke? Would they reclaim their empire? Would they be angry at the species that had taken their worlds? Or would they be something different? He didn't know. But in 30 days everyone would find out. The countdown had begun. The stars looked different in this part of space. Captain Thalmor stood on the bridge of his research vessel, staring at the dark void ahead. His 3 eyes blinked slowly as he studied the sensor readings. Something was wrong with this region of the galaxy. There should be stars here, but there was only darkness. Captain, the readings don't make sense, said Dr. Sinara, his chief scientist. She was looking at her data screen with confusion written across her purple face. This empty zone stretches for 50 light-years in all directions. No stars, no planets, nothing. Thalmor nodded slowly. He had been exploring space for 40 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The Velkari people were known across the galaxy as the best explorers. They had mapped thousands of systems. But this place was new and it scared him a little. Take us closer, he ordered. Slowly. The ship moved forward into the darkness. Commander Veklos, the military officer on board, stepped up beside the captain. His hand rested on his weapon, a habit when he felt nervous. Sir, I don't like this. The old stories talk about places like this, dead zones where the ancient humans left traps. The humans are gone, Sinara said with a laugh. They disappeared 500,000 years ago. They're just myths now, stories to scare children. But Thalmor wasn't so sure. Every culture in the galaxy had stories about the humans. The old ones, the architects, the first empire. They had ruled the stars when most modern species were still crawling in mud. Then one day they vanished. No one knew why or where they went. The ship's alarm suddenly blared to life. Red lights flashed across the bridge. Every crew member jumped to their stations. What is it? Thalmor shouted over the noise. Something's out there, the sensor officer called out. Something massive. The cloaking field is breaking down. Thalmor watched the main screen as the darkness ahead began to shimmer and fade. What appeared before them made his blood run cold. Structures. Enormous geometric structures floating in the void. They were made of some dark metal that seemed to absorb light itself. By the ancients, Veklos whispered. As the cloaking field continued to fail, more and more objects appeared. Ships, thousands of them, no, tens of thousands. They hung in perfect formation, organized in mathematical patterns that hurt to look at. Each ship was different in size. from small fighters to vessels so large they could carry entire cities. "Scan them," Thalmor ordered, his voice shaking slightly. Sinara worked quickly, her fingers dancing across her controls. "Captain, these ships are old, very old. The metal composition matches fragments we've found at archaeological sites. Human sites." The word hung in the air like a threat. "Human. We need to leave," Veklo said firmly. "Now. We report this to the Concordat and let them decide what to do." But before Thalmor could give the order, something changed. Lights began to appear on the ships. Dim at first, then growing brighter. Red lights like eyes opening after a long sleep. "They're activating," the sensor officer screamed. "Defensive shields up," Thalmor commanded. "Prepare to jump to hyperspace." But the ships didn't attack. Instead, they just watched. Thalmor could feel it somehow. Thousands of ancient weapons all pointing at his small vessel, studying them, deciding if they were a threat. Then a sound filled the bridge. It came from every speaker, every communication device. A voice, but not organic. It was mechanical, cold, but somehow alive. "Identify yourselves." The words were spoken in perfect Velkari. Then they were repeated in other languages. Hundreds of languages, one after another, cycling through every known tongue in the galaxy. Thalmor stepped forward, his legs shaking. "I am Captain Thalmor of the Velkari research vessel Eternal Seeker. We mean no harm. We are explorers." Silence. Then the voice spoke again. "You have entered the Sol System defense perimeter. This region is under human jurisdiction. State your purpose." Dr. Sinara moved beside Thalmor. "This is impossible." "The humans are extinct, gone for 500,000 years. Correction," the voice said. "Humans are not extinct. Humans are dormant. This system is protected. You will submit to scanning." Before anyone could respond, a beam of light swept through their ship. It passed through walls and bodies like they weren't there. Every crew member felt it touch their minds, reading their thoughts, their memories, their intentions. Then it stopped. The voice spoke once more. "You carry no hostile intent. You are classified as non-threatening. However, you have discovered what should remain hidden." Calculating response, Thalmor found his courage. "What is this place? Where are the humans?" "This is Luna, primary shipyard of the Human Federal Navy. Before you are 17,412 vessels of war. Beyond this system lie 200 worlds where humanity sleeps, waiting for the infection to be purged from their bodies." Veklo stepped forward. "Infection? What infection?" "The Void Swarm. 500,000 years ago, humanity fought the swarm. We won, but the price was terrible. The swarm's touch corrupted human biology. We were forced to sleep until our bodies could heal. These ships guard our sleep. Sinara was recording everything. How long until you wake?" There was a pause. When the voice returned, it sounded almost uncertain. "Unknown. The healing process is slow. It could be tomorrow. It could be another 1,000,000 years. Until then, we wait, we watch. We protect." Thalmor looked at the massive fleet before him. "What should we do? Should we tell others?" "That choice is yours, Captain Thalmor. But know this. If your people or any others attempt to take what is ours, these ships will activate. They will defend humanity's sleep. And nothing in this galaxy has the power to stop them." The lights on the ships began to dim. The voice spoke one final time. "We sleep, but we do not forget. We are humanity, and we will return." Then silence fell over the dead zone once more. But now Thalmor knew the truth. The humans weren't gone. They were sleeping. And their dreams were guarded by the most powerful fleet ever created. His crew looked at him, waiting for orders. Thalmor made his decision. "Send a message to the Concordat. Tell them everything. The galaxy needs to know. The humans are not extinct, and when they wake up, everything will change." The news would spread like fire across the stars. The age of myth was ending. The age of humanity's return was about to begin.